What's up, BP Squad? It's Spence Crosby back with another video. Today I want to talk about 3 things that I wish people would stop talking about concerning martial arts. Now, for me personally, I'm not a huge UFC fan, but my little brother sent me a highlight video over the weekend of Alex Pereira versus Jiří Procházka. And after seeing those highlights, I'm just like, wow, that just confirms everything that I'm thinking about. And I'm sure you as a viewer know this already. And that first thing we're gonna talk about is power isn't everything. I tell people this all of the time. People have this crazy obsession with power. He hits this hard, he'll knock you out with one punch, when in actuality, timing is truly the best gift that you can have. And I'm not saying it's necessarily to downgrade power. Having power is an excellent attribute to have, but when you just rely on power, that's where you're gonna run across some issues. We see this time and time again when we see the puncher going against the more technical fighter. And guess who typically struggles? The power puncher, because that's all he relies on. And some punchers are technical. Now, I'm not saying all punchers lack technique, but a lot of them do lack it because that's all they have to rely on. It nullifies a lot of things, and honestly, it does really save you, especially when you're losing rounds, either that be in boxing or in UFC. But when that's all you have, you're gonna struggle a lot. And seeing the highlight over the weekend just reminded me, like, people really think having power is the end all be all. Now, I'm not saying it's about the entire martial arts community, but a lot of people just talk about power. They don't talk about timing. When we look at Alex Pereira's kick, it really wasn't a powerful kick. It was skillfully demonstrated and timed perfectly. He just caught him. And that's where the shots really count. It's the shots you don't see when you're just perfectly timed. Look at fighters like Terrence Crawford, Floyd Mayweather, Alex Pereira. These guys have excellent timing down, and that shows you they have a high degree of skill. Skills pay the bills. The human jaw can only take so much force delivered to it. The second thing I want to talk about is that kicks aren't necessarily useless in a street fight. Firstly, let me say this. I'm not advocating for street fights, nor in any case violence. You want to be able to dispel a hostile situation by any means necessary, either by trying to talk to the person or simply just call the cops. There's no point in putting your life at risk for someone who can't control their emotions. You have a wife, you have kids, brother, a mother, father to go home to. I don't even care if it's your cat or your dog. Do not risk your life for some simple, dumb argument. You have to be smart. But there are some cases where you do have to defend yourself. You can't just let people walk over you. But to my point, kicks aren't necessarily useless in a street fight if you are a person that knows how to properly utilize them. This is essential that you understand this. You have to practice day in and day out on your kicks. Otherwise, if you don't have proper repetition with your kicks, you're not gonna have the confidence to deliver them. And even if you do kick, you have to understand there are consequences to kicking. You're taking a risk, but they're not useless. Let's talk about the risk. A lot of the time when we go out, we're not in the proper attire to throw kicks. We typically don't have stretchy clothes on, unless you me, because I got those stretchy jeans because I'm always trying to be ready. But many of us don't have stretch-like attire. We're also not properly warmed up. The surface is typically unreliable. You have to consider this because when you're going to a gym and you're throwing those kicks, the gym is suitable for you to throw those kicks, but outside it's not always suitable for us. You have to also keep in mind, if you're a fighter and you're going against a guy that doesn't know how to fight, those guys are typically unpredictable. You guys know what it's like sparring against your friend or a person at the gym. You both typically get in your fighting stance, and then from there it's just kind of like a chess match. Versus going against a guy that doesn't know how to fight, he's gonna just come out hyper aggressive. He's throwing haymakers left and right, and you have to be properly prepared for those haymakers. So if you're sitting here trying to throw a kick and trying to time him, you're gonna be knocked out because you're so used to fighting a trained opponent that out in the streets, this person isn't trained. They just know emotion, emotion, emotion. They're gonna just react to you. So just sitting there trying to deliver a nice kick, you're taking a chance. And so these are some of the things you need to properly consider before you just go outside just trying to throw a kick to anybody. I would strongly suggest you have a great understanding of kicking before you go out there. Watching what you see on UFC or in the movies, that doesn't work in real life. You need to make sure you are properly trained before you go out there and just seek to smoke like that. However, I will say, if you know what you're doing, then by all means, use your kicks. Again, I'm not advocating for street fights, but hey, if you understand, throw your kicks. I wouldn't go out there try to throw a 540 kick. You know, I would stick with my basic kicks like the front, lower roundhouse kick, a nice probably side kick, and even then you're kind of taking the risk with the side kick. But you could certainly get away with throwing kicks in a street fight, and even head kicks, you can get away with that. But head kicks are very risky, so do understand that. The whole moral of the story is this: kicks are not useless in a street fight. The very last thing I want to address is the people who always say that wouldn't work in a street fight or that wouldn't work in a real fight. We know it wouldn't work in a real fight. You know, I'm one of those guys on Instagram that I do fancy stuff at times. And you know, you get people in the comment section like, oh, that wouldn't work in a street fight. Like, believe me, I know I wouldn't do this in a street fight. I wouldn't throw these crazy spinning kicks in a street fight. You know, coming from doing capoeira, you know, people always say that wouldn't work. You're gonna do that little Jenga thing, and then no, we're not gonna Jenga in a street fight. If anything, I'm trying to dispel the street fight. But if I have to defend myself, I'm not gonna Jenga and then deliver a kick. I'm just gonna catch you with a kick that you probably don't know what's coming. Or again, I'm gonna take the safer route and just throw punches. Guys, the stuff you see on social media, I'm quite sure a lot of people know it wouldn't work in a street fight. It's just simply to grab your attention. The whole point is it got your attention and it got you to comment. That's what it is. We know it wouldn't work in an actual street fight. Some of the stuff, it might work. You might get away with it if somebody just, they have no clue what they're doing. But I'm not gonna risk my life throwing some fancy punch, kick, Liu Kang combo just to prove my point. Like, hey, I'm a good martial artist. Like, no, I'm gonna stick with my basics, because the basics at the end of the day are gonna save you. If I could build a complete martial artist from scratch, I would say get your punches down pat, have some grappling down pat, have your front roundhouse, and probably a side kick down pat, and that's all you really need. Of course, you gotta have the defense too, but all the other fancy stuff, you don't really need that. So I know people come at Michael Jai White all the time like, oh, he can't really fight. The guy is 6'2", 200 and some pounds, and he can move quickly, and you see the way he strikes. You don't think he could fight? I don't have to see him fight in the streets or in UFC boxing to say he doesn't know how to fight. You look at some guys, you could tell the way they move, like, yeah, he understands movement. If I see a guy knowing how to move like that, I'm gonna think twice before just assuming he can't fight. And we have to also keep this in mind. Not everybody wants to fight. I know I get comments on my stuff, hey, you should fight. Like, dude, I used to fight approximately 8 years ago. I learned the game too late. I really did. I wanted to, but I learned too late. And so I just do this just for the sake of just testing myself. Yet, that's just me with my little rant. I think a lot of people assume when they see fancy stuff on social media or in the movies, like, that wouldn't really work in the fight. Like, I'm quite sure people wouldn't use that in the fight. Understand, guys, those are the 3 points I want you to truly understand. Timing is the most underrated skill there is. Kicks aren't useless in a street fight. And finally, just because you do some kind of fancy move on social media or in a movie, people know that they wouldn't use this in an actual fight. Don't forget, I'm not advocating for violent street fights, none of that stuff. I just want to be able to open minds, or if you already know this stuff, just be able to kind of confirm what's already on your mind. If you guys enjoyed today's video, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Most importantly, make sure you are properly subscribed. I'll see you guys next video. Peace and love as always, and I shave. Boom. We out, baby.